Well, hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Unlocked Show. As you guys know, I'm your host, Tracy Wilson. It's my pleasure to be here with you guys today. We're going to be talking about all things when it comes to like growing your team or actually finding really awesome A players that help you to scale and grow your business from an online perspective. Now, some of you might have been sitting around thinking, God, I'm in my business right now and I'm ready to scale. I'm ready to take this thing to the next level. But where do I find people? Where do I get really good people to start building out my business that are actually, driving at the same rate I am, that have good synergy with me, that know what the heck they are doing, and that I can trust to come on board and help me to grow my team? Well, today's guest is super special. She's all the way from Utah in the United States. It's the amazing Jhana. Let me tell you a little bit about her. So over the last number of years, she's been working predominantly with online digital business owners. And through those years, she'll tell you a lot more about this, but let me just give you the synopsis of it all. She's been working with them and has really analysed like a lot of the patterns, the success patterns that allow business owners where to break through and to be able to create a really sustainable and scalable business. And that's really, really important, because there's nothing worse than, going hard at it, scaling really, really fast, only to find that you've got really flimsy foundations that your growth cannot sustain. So I want to let you know that Jhana is here today to share with us all of those secrets. How do we actually find really good players? How do we find people that are going to be able to come in and just hit the ground running and be able to start helping you to grow and scale your business seamlessly? So without further ado, let me say a huge big welcome to her. Massive to have you on the show, and I can't wait to hear all of your tips, tricks, tools, resources, and as you know, a whole lot of actionable steps that we can take to allow our viewers to go away and actually take some steps today. So welcome to the show, Jhana.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tracy. It's wonderful to be here.
Well, let's start with giving us a little bit of background on how did you get started as a COO? So as a, chief operations manager for a lot of these businesses, and what were some of the things that you were seeing?
Yeah, so I oftentimes say that before I found operations, I was quite literally directionless. I was living in a converted Sprinter van at the time. We were driving through like North and South America, all over the place, just going wherever the wind took us. And my boyfriend at the time I was living in the van with was growing a digital business, a digital marketing agency to be specific. So I was seeing this thing getting built 2 feet across the table from me every single day. I was listening into his conversations, his sales calls, and just seeing this thing happen. And as you do, you start to offer advice, you start to provide insights. And what was really interesting is that I realized the insights I was providing, the things that were really obvious to me, he wasn't seeing. And I was like, okay, interesting data. Through a series of odd events, I actually ended up joining that team for what was supposed to be like a 30-day stand-in, and ended up becoming COO of that business, because once I got in there, I was just like, oh my God, this is a mess. We need to solve this right now. And we just started fixing things, right? And so that led me to becoming the COO of that business for, quite a while. I then became COO and head operations coach for a coaching program that was coaching hundreds of digital businesses. And that, I think, was really where things took off for me, because I was just able to get so much data so quickly, look into so many businesses around what works, what doesn't work, what stagnates growth, what propels and compounds growth. And really what it came down to me, and the big takeaway I learned from it, Tracy, was it's the team, right? At the end of the day, it is about the people that you are able to putting the right people in the right roles and knowing what to do with them. That is the single greatest differentiating factor between the businesses that scale and the businesses that don't.
What a really interesting, I suppose, introduction to this world, right? Being, being able to travel around and being very, flexible and remote yourself, but then also being able to have the eyes just directly across the table on somebody else who is trying to do, trying to grow and scale their business, and then being able to work for a company that is working with hundreds and hundreds of other business owners and coaches, and getting to kind of be a bit of a fly on the wall and see what's going on here? What are some
Yeah.
of the some of the things that are holding people back? So let's
Yeah.
go down that path, because I think one of the things that our viewers are going to maybe resonate with is some of those roadblocks, some of those things that we
Yeah.
often tend to put in front of ourselves, right, that prevent us from being able to move forward. So let's just highlight some of those, because we're going to have a bunch of people that are going to be going, oh my God, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, totally. So I think specifically as it relates to building a team, there's a couple of core roadblocks that I often see. Number one, I hired more members of my team and it's somehow creating more work for me, not less. Okay. If that
Mm.
happens, if that's you, that is data. Your business is giving you data, and that data is saying there is something in your own leadership style that can be evolved and needs to be evolved, because that is unsustainable, right? You cannot continue to pile people into a company, and that only creates more work for you, not less. And so that would be step number one. Like, your business, your team will always give you data that helps you know how you're doing. Other things that I see all the time, people coming to me saying, my team is constantly coming to me for everything. I've answered the same question 5 times. Why don't they understand it yet? I always have to step in and fix things for them. Why can't they just figure it out? Or I'm the only person driving growth into my business. If anybody's going to have an innovative idea, it has to be me, right? So if any of this is landing for you guys, right, I want you to understand that this is just data. It is a pattern that is becoming aware, like you're becoming aware of, that says, I'm creating this. That's the thing,
Mm.
right? There's one common denominator across the entire thing, and it's you. So, are you as a leader, where do you have opportunity and room for growth? Because what your team should be is this massive, like, gas on the fire, taking this thing that you've already built, taking it and running with it, making it better, making it more like specialized in expertise, and like more finessed and more innovative and more creative and all these things. And if you're not seeing that, then we have some room for improvement there.
So obviously, as you've worked through this and you say, there's the one common denominator, and it often is, the person at the head of the ship, which is the
Yep.
leader, the business owner. So when you realize, like, you're getting all of this data back and you're realizing, oh my gosh, this is me, or even, actually, I'm going to go back a few more steps. Given that this is one of the major problems that most business owners face,
Yep.
what is something that they could do to prepare themselves? Because that appears to me as if it's an unprepared state that we go in to
Yep.
hiring, and trying to scale our business, and we're not either mentally, physically, or well prepared to even move down this next phase of our business. So what are some of the things that we can do to prepare ourselves for that?
My gosh, that's a fantastic question. I think it's important to recognize that up until you are building a team, there is no reason that you would be a good leader. Unless you have prior experience doing that, there's absolutely no reason that you should know intrinsically how to do that, right? I think one of the big limiting beliefs around leadership is that people feel like it's born, not made. But this is just the next skill set that your business is asking you to acquire now. And like every other skill set that you've acquired for your business up until now, it can be learned. You just have to make the active choice to start allocating time towards that, right? So if you've never had a member of your team before, beautiful. Don't focus on leadership. Focus on sales, focus on marketing, focus on the skills that are going to grow your business to the point where you could even hire. Once you hire, now it's time to start looking at that, right? So I have some go-to leadership books that I'd be happy to share, Tracy, if that'd be helpful. And I would also just say, yeah, and I would also just say, like, it's also a mindset shift, right? This is probably the single biggest limiting belief that I see business owners have, which is that it all comes down to me. Okay. When it was just you, that was true, right? Your business's success is all down to you. But as soon as you start to build and scale a team, the key differentiator, your success as a company, is no longer about you, right? Your success as an entrepreneur is no longer about how hard you can work, how creative you can be, how smart and innovative you can be, right? It's about how can I inspire a team to be smart, to be creative, to work hard, right? And so the books that I would recommend, my go-tos, number one, Multipliers by Liz Wiseman, absolutely phenomenal. Number two, First Break All the Rules, my top book
Yeah.
on management. And let's be clear, people don't like the word manager, right? Call it what you will. You're managing your people, right? And if you want to manage them well, then you're not micromanaging them. You're building them up. You're coaching them. You're letting them run further and farther for you, right? How do you do that? So I would start allocating time towards studying and learning this skill set. I would start actively looking at the data that your business gives you as you start to bring people into your team, because that data is saying, where can I grow as a leader? Where can I offer more support? Where am I overstepping and micromanaging? What is an alternative to doing that? Right. And as your business starts to feed you that data, you're going to be able to see where your gaps as a leader are, and then you can close those holes as they appear.
Let's just get, this is interesting because I want to get really clear for everybody. When we're talking about data or data, we're often really used to seeing, right, the numbers coming back, that we're used to seeing. What sort of data are we talking about here?
Great question.
In terms of what we should be looking at, because one of the things that I realized, being a leader myself and having managed and built up teams, is that it's not necessarily about the numbers, but it's the data that's coming back to us in all different ways, shapes, and forms. So, what are some of the ways that you become aware as a leader that, hey, this is a data point that I should be taking notice of and being aware of?
Question. I love that. So when I say data specifically around teams, what I'm talking about is behavioral data, right? So when your teammate comes back to you for the 5th time with the same exact question, that's data, right? Conversely, when your teammate takes initiative on something and generates an absolutely innovative and crazy new product innovation, that's data, right? So what you're asking, what I would encourage you to ask yourself is what is the behavior that I want to see from my team, right? Do I want them to be taking initiative and running with projects and being unafraid to fail? Do I want them to run everything by me and make sure that I have the green light on everything? Do I want them to be critical thinkers, or do I want them to just follow the SOP, right? Get clear with what kind of team you're building here. But if we're building a remote team of A players, right? These are the people that take initiative, that think critically, that own their roles. And so the data that supports that is people coming up with ideas, people coming to you with solutions instead of problems, right? Not, hey, this thing broke, how do I fix it? It's, hey, this thing broke, here's what I've already tried, I just wanted your feedback on this, right? So the two scenarios that's both data pointing you in, am I moving in the right direction with my leadership, or am I creating this behavior somehow? That's the really important piece, right? Every time you get a piece of negative data, something that you wish your team wouldn't do, ask yourself the question, how did I create this behavior in them? Because if you're seeing that from across the team, it's you.
This is an interesting, concept when we talk about, preparing ourselves to be able to go out and find A players, because nothing worse than going and actually finding an A player and bringing them into a C grade business. They're not going to be there for very long. So it's about preparing ourselves in the first instance to have an A business that then has the capacity to be able to bring on board A players. So that whole concept around, we talk a lot about this in terms of building our business. What do we want? What am I trying to create from a bird's eye view level of the overall business? But now we're talking about getting, a little deeper and saying, well, this part of my business, these great people that I'm wanting to bring on board, and I think this is key, this distinction that you've made around, it being about behaviors. What behaviors do I want them to display? And when you can sit down and you can really think about those behaviors, then you're going into, the employment mode or team building mode, very, very clear about what it is that you want, and you're able to clearly articulate the behaviors to your prospective employees. Yeah.
Huge. Yep.
When I mean, a lot of the time, and I'm assuming when you've seen, these hundreds of coaches and business owners, we often become the bottleneck. in
Yes,
the
we do.
business, right? Because of all of these things that you've just spoken about.
Yep.
And sometimes, we get into this mode of, well, I just want it done a particular way. I want it done that way. And it can be very easy, a slippery slope where you're like, okay, I'm going to go down that slide and end up in micromanagement, territory.
Yep.
How does one pull themselves back out of that? Like once you've already gone down that slippery slope and boy, now I've created this monster. How do I start to kind of like backpedal out of this and start recreating it in a way that is going to be more conducive to developing and growing the success of not only my people, but also the business?
Yes. So this is a really powerful and difficult thing, right? Because what's essentially happening in this scenario is a vicious cycle. It's the business owner saying, I can't trust my team to do the right thing. And that leads to you naturally micromanaging them because you want to make sure the right work is getting done, which naturally leads to them never taking initiative or wanting to step a toe out of line or like demonstrate any additional potential, which then reinforces your thought process that, oh, they always need me to be there in order to get the right thing done, right? So it is this compounding vicious cycle where the data coming back to you will only ever support your hypothesis that says my team is incapable, I cannot trust them, I have to micromanage them. So the first thing we have to do is we have to break the cycle. And that starts with two limiting beliefs. That starts with the business owner ourselves, right? And I'm a business owner too, guys. I struggle with this all the time. But those two beliefs are, number one, my way is the right way. We have to let go of that, right? What your way is the direction and the vision for the company. Nobody else can set that for you. Nobody else can do that better than you. That is your job to provide. But how your team gets you there should be theirs to decide, right? And your way isn't the right way, because if it is, you've inherently capped what that company is able of producing, what it's capable of producing, right? So that's limiting belief number one. My way is the right way. Limiting belief number two, nobody can do this job as well as me. Okay. Also not true. Just numerically, right? Like there's 8 billion people in the world. There's somebody else out there who can do a better job, right? And so when we change those two thought processes in our head, we approach the act of team building differently. When I'm hiring somebody, I'm not looking for somebody who's going to do it exactly the way I would do it. I'm looking for an expert in that role who's going to do it way better than me, right? The only people I bring onto my team are the people who are going to do it way better than me, right? And that doesn't mean they have 20 years of experience and you can't afford them. I get that we're in startup land and there are constraints there, right? But you're looking for somebody whose raw genius and raw talent and their excitement and their passion is towards this specific role and this specific mechanism for change, because they will go out and they'll learn the things that they need to learn, and they will be innovative and they'll be creative and they'll work their butt off to become excellent in that role, because it's what fuels them. And you will get somebody who is an expert in the role, even if you cannot afford the expert to begin with, right?
Absolutely. So I want to go, one of the things that I know a lot of people that are listening are going to be thinking is, so we've talked about preparation, preparing ourselves, and then preparing the next phase of preparing the role of what is it that this person is going to be doing. So nobody in it right yet, but I know I need somebody. I think I know that I want them to do this, 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 and this. Like, what is the process there? What, as a business owner, should I be doing or thinking about at that phase of the process?
Yeah. So this is where we get into the tactical, Tracy. My number one hiring best practice, guys, is build a definition of success in that role prior to going out and trying to fill it, right? So there's a tool that I call the job scorecard. It's made up of 3 parts. You have your mission statement. The mission statement answers the question, why? Why does this role exist within this business? Like, why am I hiring an account manager? What are they supposed to do? You have the outcome section. The outcome section is where we get measurable. So what are the clear deliverables measured with deadlines and KPI targets and all the good stuff that only an A player in this role would be able to hit? That's important. You set the outcomes such that only an A player would be able to hit them. And then the third section is the competencies. The competencies answer the question, how? Like, does this person need to be data driven? Does this person need to be highly empathetic, right? This person needs to be in alignment with our core values, right? Like the competency sections where you would put your core values. How will they go about executing this role? And what's powerful about the job scorecard is that it defines this like perfect avatar before you go out and you look for the person. And so your job search now isn't about trying to find someone, it's about trying to recognize someone, because you've already built your ideal avatar. You've already built your ideal profile. You're just trying to go find, like, recognize that in the candidates that you're seeking. And you can build your entire interview, and you should, your entire application and interview process to filter for that person. You can build your interview questions around that person, your skill assessment around demonstrating those outcomes and competencies, right? Your entire hiring funnel becomes a magnet for that avatar. And in the way that magnets work, it is attracting all of the people who are super excited to fill that role, and it is repelling anybody who is not a good fit. So on my hiring funnel, I get a ton of amazing positive response, and I also get some negative response around, I would never work for this company. What the hell is she talking about? Beautiful. I want that. It means it's working.
Absolutely. Just like you say, it becomes that funnel of these are the potential right candidates, and these are the ones that are no. And that allows you to stop wasting your time doing interviews for people that are never, ever going to be a good fit for you. The next question that most people are going to have is, okay, so I'm a one-man band, I'm a solopreneur, but I'm ready to scale. I'm ready to bring on my next team member. Who should I be hiring? Like, who should my first hire be? And maybe the first three, like in what order, and why should I be hiring them in that manner?
Yes, great question. So there's a methodology that I use for this, Tracy. The first thing I'll say is that there is no capital R right order to hire, right? It's going to depend on you, and it's going to depend on your business. And specifically, it is going to depend on what are the highest value activities that you drive to the business, and then we delegate from there. So there's this concept that I teach called the effective hourly value. Your effective hourly value is the highest potential value that you could drive into your business with 1 hour of your time. Okay. So something, if you're just getting started out, high value activities are things like sales calls, are things like strategic vision setting and product design, right? Low value activities are things like invoicing. Does it need to happen? Absolutely. Is that the best use of your time? It's not, right? So what I would recommend you do is that you do a bit of a time audit. Look at your time for 3 days. Just as you're going through your day in a spreadsheet, jot down just the name of the activity that you are going through. Okay, beautiful. So we have this whole long list of activities 3 days later. We're not judging it. We're not analyzing it. We're just collecting data. Beautiful. Next, go through and on a scale of 1 to 5, assign an effective hourly value to each of those activities. What are the highest value activities that you do every single day? What are the lowest value activities that you do every single day? 5 being the highest, 1 being the lowest, okay? And then sort the list. 5 at the top, 1 at the bottom. When it comes to who do I hire and in what order, we draw a scope of work around the bottom of that list, and then we work our way up, right? Because from an efficiency perspective, from an operational perspective, what that means is you are getting the most amount of your time reallocated from the lowest value activities into the highest value activities. That is always going to be your most efficient way to hire. And why this is individualized, right? Because there's some things that like everyone will show up as a 1 on a 2, invoicing and sending out 500 emails a day or whatever, right? Like, yeah, totally. What will also end up low on that list are the things that you are genuinely bad at, right? Like if you are really bad at marketing, you should hire in a marketing expert sooner than if you're a total marketing genius, right? You can hold on to that role longer because it represents really high value add. And so this is an individualized process based not only on where's the most amount of your time going and what is just objectively the least amount of value added to the business, but where do you not do your best work? And let's start there.
Perfect. And I mean, that it's really interesting because I remember doing that time audit some time ago, by the time I did it again, actually, and having to do that for 3 days. And I think we did like 20-minute increments of actually, what exactly have I been doing? And doing that exercise really does highlight and enables you to see really quickly where you should be spending your time and where your best use of dollars spent on hiring somebody is. Now, the next question most people are going to have, because we're doing a tight show today, is where do I find such people? So once I've done this, I might just go into something like, here in Australia we have Seek, which is an online
a big job forum.
Big job forum, or you could go to LinkedIn or something like that. Where are the best places to find A-grade remote staff members?
Yes, 100%. So I have a bit of a maybe controversial opinion on this, Tracy, but I think that good people exist everywhere. I think exceptional people exist everywhere. I think it is your responsibility as the designer of the hiring process to filter out the diamonds in the rough, right? So I do all of my prospecting on Indeed. We get hundreds of applications for every single role. I interview no less or no more than probably 5 people, right? So your process needs to be built and designed, again, with that ideal avatar in mind, to cull out all of the people who are not a good fit, and to do that automatically so that your time is protected and preserved, right? So there's a couple of ways that we do that. I first recommend offering a large barrier to entry in the automated portion of the application. So this could look like a couple of things. If it's a video-centric role, like an account manager or a salesperson, I would recommend they submit a video cover letter, right? So think of a regular cover letter, but they have to record it on video. If it is a more technical skills-based role, I recommend a skill assessment, where you are designing questions to get a glimpse of how they think about the very real problems that they would need to decide on and solve when they stepped into the role. Like literally when we're building our skill assessment, we look at like, what are the top 2 things this person's going to have to do? And how do we design a hypothetical question for that? So we can literally see how this person would tackle it, right? And then we have them record a Loom video explaining their answer. And that's important because in a remote environment, you have to be camera ready. You do, right? Everybody is on Zoom. You have to be able to communicate well. We get responses all the time being just written responses, or I'm not comfortable on Zoom, or I'm not comfortable. I don't know how to use Loom. Any of these things, it's like, I'm sorry, that's a deal breaker. We're in a remote world now, right? So large barrier to entry on the front end. Customize, put a code word in. So we slip a code word into our job description. They have to tell us what the code word is, right? These sorts of things that serve as these big like elimination factors where you're like, you didn't get the code word. I don't care if you are the most qualified person in the world. We're not looking at you, right? So this is a way of taking hundreds of candidates down to maybe 20 that you're actually looking at. And then you're looking at their skill assessment, and you're looking at, their written application and all these things. And then you're making the decision about who do I interview. But I genuinely don't think there's a magical place where all the A players hang out. I think it's our responsibility as business owners to go out and to magnetize them into our business.
And it's interesting because I think one of the things that, I've often done is once you know who you're looking for and you're having these conversations with people on the regular, whether they're in your local area or whether they're online, you tend to be able to work out, oh my gosh, that person would be an amazing COO for my business. And then being able to do an outreach because you've done the filtration process without necessarily even having to go out and try and seek somebody through a traditional, advertisement type method. Sure. So I love all of that. As far as like being able to create something that is scalable, what is one thing that you think business owners should inject into their business? I'm going to say sooner rather than later, to help build a solid foundation so that when you do bring people on board, you've actually got something that is going to last the test of time and not going to crumble beneath your feet.
Are you asking from like a systems and process perspective?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So this is really interesting. One of the top correlative questions to high performance teams are teams that answer positively to the statement, I have the opportunity and resources to do my best work every day. Cool. So, what does that mean? It means that our job as leadership and management, if we want to build world class teams, we have to approach that job through the lens of how do I give my team the support, the resources, and the opportunity to do their best work every day? What does that look like? If I'm hiring an account manager and they are managing 50 clients and there is client information scattered across 5 pieces of technology, what does that account manager need? They need a single place that they can come to. I call it the single source of truth that pulls in all of that information. Why do they need that? Not because it's efficient, not because of any of these other reasons. It's because that's what they need to do their best work. Their best work is not running around trying to track down information or contract info or the client's like dog's name, right? Their best work is hopping on a call with the client and building a relationship. So we can, from an operations perspective and a foundations perspective, pull all that information in so that they can see it and they can get to executing their best work. So that is an example of what I would say are a couple of core pillars systems wise that I recommend every business has. Number one, communication. So that's Slack, maybe it's, Google Teams or Microsoft Teams, whatever it is you use, you need to have a single place to communicate with your team. Do not text them, do not call them, do not email them, have one place, right? Cool, communication. Number two, what I mentioned, the single source of truth. So if you are in any kind of high scale, high volume client model, and that information creep is starting to just absolutely swamp the business, you need a single project management system that is going to take and gather all of that information and display it in a way where your team can take action off of it, right? So that would be core pillar number two. After that, I generally see sales CRM being the next major piece of systems and process that is built out. And then from there, it tends to diversify depending on, and then maybe like finance and billing. And then from there, it diversifies depending on the business model.
So my last question for you today, Jhana, is so project management systems.
Yes.
What's your all-time favorite? What system do you prefer to use?
I am falling more and more in love with ClickUp every day. It's a new software, a new project management system out of the States. They're actually here in Utah. And they are really trying to be that all-in-one solution. So they're a little bit new. They have their bugs. They have their kinks that they're trying to work out. And the challenge with ClickUp is that they can do so many things that you have to know what it is that you want in order. It's like having a blank canvas. Like you have to know what you want to paint in order for it to make sense, right? So ClickUp is my go-to. If you have a super simple business model and you have no idea what a project management system should look like, I would probably start with Asana.
With Asana. Okay, beautiful. Well, we'll put it out there. My all-time favorite's Monday.com.
Yep. That's my second fave.
The system that we use regularly across all of our businesses. Look, I want to say thank you so much for being here today on the Unlock Show, because, these very simple processes that you've shared today, in particular, just thinking about, preparing yourself as a business owner so that you are well prepared to be able to bring on some new team, to new team members, and then also really thinking about the behaviors that you want to see, not only from yourself, but also from your team as you continue to build out and scale. There's so much more to this conversation that we could have, and perhaps we might even have you back on another episode of the Unlock Show, and we can go even a little bit further than this, because this is we've literally just scratched the surface today of some of the things that people can really think about. So I would absolutely love if you'd be willing to do that, so we can delve a little bit deeper into this. But I want to say thank you very much. It's been a really interesting, show. You've clearly been through this process yourself, and I love the fact, being somebody who is remote working yourself, totally into the whole van life thing. I totally think that tomorrow. My husband would be willing, because packing this up and being able to do it on the road would be amazing.
Amazing.
I look I look forward to having you back, and let's delve a little bit deeper into all things operations and scaling out a team and being able to create a life that is truly unlocked because you're not tied to your business, feeling as though you're the only one that's able to do everything. So thank you very much. Thanks everybody else for tuning in today. We will be back. I will be chatting with Jhana in a few moments, and we'll be getting her lined up to come back, and let's do another episode with her. I think you'll all agree that today has been a brilliant show. Thanks for joining us, Jhana. Thanks everybody.
Thank you so much.
See you guys again Friday, 10 a.m. Brisbane time for another episode of The Unlock Show. Thanks, guys. Bye for now.